me your ears.
This nation will rise up.
Welcome to the Elemental Health Podcast. Welcome to Series 2 of the Elemental Health Podcast. This is the first episode on the second series. We've had a bit of a gap since the first 12 were released, and I was so excited about that part of the project, and I'm even more excited, if that's possible, about this next second series and who we've got on, and I'm labeling this a deep dive, and on each episode I'm trying to dig out more of the tools and tactics and the bits and pieces that you're then able to go away and implement in your life, and being really specific and really granular on the information that I'm extracting from my guests and the information that I'm giving you in the solo casts that I put together through the research and the worlds, the bits that I come in contact with and things that I ponder and the aspects that people, the listeners, ask about as well, and the questions that I get through my coaching and through social media and all those bits and pieces. So it's really kind of boiling that down and trying to give you more value, I guess, is the point. And episode 1 of the second series is just about to start, and I couldn't ask for a better guest to launch this second series. We're going to dive straight in with Jeremy Abramson, who is just a huge ball of energy. He lives in Miami. His life got turned upside down, and he's still quite a young guy, but he has been on a real journey, and he is now delivering some of what I believe is the best content out there on all the different platforms, actually, and his ability to kind of energize people and go into a corporate environment or one-on-one or group coaching, whatever it might be, and influence that body of people through positivity with his passion and purpose. And we talk a lot, and we get into the weeds around different types of training, how he got into animal flow and movement culture versus kind of the traditional way of doing things. So we're kind of trying to sort of shift the paradigm in the way the conversation develops, and just understand his view of the world, which is phenomenal. And this was filmed in my house, and Jeremy came to stay with me, and we had a really good time. So I really hope you enjoyed the recording. So let's jump straight in with the Chief Energy Officer, Jeremy Abramson. Coach Jeremy Abramson, welcome to the Elemental Health Podcast.
Yes, sir. So happy to be here. What a journey.
I'm thrilled to have you on the show. This is the first episode of Series 2, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have in front of me in terms of energy and kind of outlook on life. So I'm really excited about jumping into some details and having you share where you are in your journey and what's going on with you, and kind of explore your kind of outlook and your mindset towards health, happiness, life, movement, all the bits and pieces that I know you're really, really passionate about.
Yes, sir. Let's dive deep. I'm ready for this. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah, well, I mean, prior to this recording, we were down the beach, and you were showing me some of your stuff. So that was a nice interlude intro into kind of your world and what you're up to. So thank you for that.
100%. Yeah, we were working on some animal flow movements, really focusing in on building intention and control with your own body weight, because I see so often people in the gym doing exercises, lifting weight that they're not really ready for. It's such high impact on their joints, on their ligaments, and they haven't yet built the resilience and strength and durability in their joints and tissues. So really honing in on your body weight and owning that, right? And building stability in these areas like your shoulders and hips will just translate into every other aspect of fitness.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a great kind of intro into what you're about, really, and you summed it up really well. So let's dive, let's rewind a bit, and I just want to know how you got to where you are now, kind of the abridged version of your story so far, and why movement, why health, why you're passionate about it, and what's been your journey up to this point, and what's been impactful for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I was telling you earlier, I think a profound moment for me was a little over 4 years ago when I was 24. In the span of a week, I got fired from my job and I had found out my girlfriend was cheating on me. So that was really the first big piece of adversity I feel like I had to get through in my life. And I was kind of at a crossroads. Do I continue kind of doing what I'm doing and continue in the sports and marketing industry? Or do I make a monumental shift and explore? So I had decided, I was living in California at the time, and I had decided to visit Miami, and I fell in love with it and during my week there. And I had made the decision, spur of the moment. I packed up my car and I drove across country about 4.5 years ago, and Miami became my home. And this whole process, in terms of health and wellness, I've always been passionate about fitness. Since I was 17 or 18, I was always a scrawny kid. So I think when I was a senior in high school and I had a little more time on my hands and I was trying to maybe impress people, right, get that external validation, I went to the YMCA and just started lifting. I had no idea what I was doing. But for me, I have a body type where my metabolism's fast and I kind of put on muscle quick. So I saw results. And I loved seeing those results. It was like a testament to the hard work and consistency. And I just never saw fitness as a career path, like that I could support myself, support my family. So, while I was always passionate about it, it wasn't until like 3.5 years ago where I actually dove deep. I got certified. I remember in November of 2016, I went to Onnit Academy in Austin, Texas, and I did a certification there. And I was just blown away by the knowledge, by the information, and so many people introduced interesting things to me that opened my eyes in terms of nutrition and just longevity and living the most optimized life and unleashing your potential in all aspects of health and wellness. And I just dove deep after that. So it's been like a 2.5, 3 year journey of just really going out there, trying to learn from the best, whether it's Wim Hof, Ben Greenfield, Aubrey Marcus, reading, doing certifications, and applying it with myself and my clients.
Wicked. Yeah, it's a good story, and I think it's that classic hero's journey, isn't it? You face some adversity and you get through that, and your world literally changes from that point on forwards. Wicked. So so now you're based in Miami.
Yes, sir.
And you're the proud host of the Stand Up to Sitting podcast.
Correct.
And you're also engaging with some really interesting organizations and some corporate stuff as well. So what's next for you on the journey then? So you're up until a point. In fact, let's wind back. So what is your focus now? What are you up to, and what's interesting to you, and it's specifically within health and well-being?
Right. So you and I spoke earlier, and you were telling me about how the healthcare industry in England is so broken, and it's like that times 10 in the States. Chronic disease, mental health, these have never been as prominent as they are today, which is kind of counterintuitive considering, all the advancements in medicine and technology. And it kind of caused me to step back and just look at how a majority of people are living and how sedentary most of our lives are. We wake up in a rush, our cortisol levels are sky high, we down our coffee, and we're stuck in traffic going to work. So our cortisol levels go higher, we're stressed, we're upset, and we get to work and then we're inundated with calls and emails and we're sitting on our ass for 8 hours. And all of a sudden we're spending our whole day and a majority of our life sitting in this stagnant position. So when I started this stand up to sitting movement, and later, as of 3 months ago, the podcast, it was really just to bring awareness and to tie in gratitude and movement. Like, we are so grateful to have a body that is capable of moving in all these complex, beautiful ways, yet we're making the choice to waste all of that ability. And, in terms of the stand up to sitting stuff, it's a mindset thing too. We are talking also, how people are so set in their ways and stuck in their comfort zone. So stand up to sitting is like, stand up to your normal, stand up to what you're currently doing and grow and be open-minded towards change. So that's really what I'm passionate about, is implementing wellness into the workplace, and also just bringing fun movement to people's lives. Like, I want to make fitness fun again. Like Trump says, he wants to make America great again. I want to get hats that say "Make fitness fun again." So that's actually a good idea. I'm going to write those down and have those ordered. You'll be the first one to get one.
Yeah. And so prior to kind of your road to Damascus and the story you told us 5 years ago, you must have had a passion for wellness prior to that, and sort of an interest. And you said sports as well. Was there anything specific that in your kind of upbringing that led you to that? Because I think the point I'm sort of alluding to is guys at your age, don't tend to have such a mature outlook and are perhaps less altruistic. So is there a route for that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, I think, for me, I've always had a giving mentality. I think that comes from my parents. My parents are very charitable, and growing up, they were always just encouraging myself to get involved in the community, volunteer, add value, because we're so fortunate. And I just want to add joy to people's lives, really. And I feel like movement for me, I don't really like being called like a fitness person or a trainer, because I feel like I go way beyond that, right? For me, fitness is just a way to bring people together, and community is so powerful. And I think it's lacking in so many areas of society. So any opportunity we have to bring people together and be healthy at the same time, I think is very special. But in regards to the other components of health and wellness, I would say I started implementing and experimenting with those probably 18 months, 2 years ago. And it started just doing research, like, okay, I'm going to have a morning cocktail with apple cider vinegar, lemon, and Himalayan salt every morning. Okay, that feels good. Then then I tried like bulletproof coffee, putting grass-fed butter, MCT oil in my coffee. And I saw like, okay, I got a nice quick energy boost, and I felt really grounded at the same time. So I always try and implement new things for myself, and then I'm like, okay, I see the benefit here. I'm gonna have some family, some friends try it, some clients, and yeah, I think just focusing on one part, just fitness, is neglecting a majority of the puzzle, right? And I just consider, fitness, nutrition, they're all pieces to this very important puzzle. And if one of them's missing, it's going to have a domino effect.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I always have a gripe with the actual word fitness, because it doesn't allude to anything meaningful on someone's journey to health. And my background is quote unquote fitness. And people come to me and say, I want to get fitter. I'm sure as they do to you. And my question is, why fit for what? Fit is a process to get you to a certain level, certain standard, and it's usually to do with some sort of athletic event more than anything else. So, I think you could define your wellness in terms of your fitness to live a healthy life, but I think that's sort of a derivative of the actual term. So for me, a bit like yourself, it doesn't encapsulate what you're trying to do and the messaging you're trying to get across. So that whole fitness thing is kind of one of my bugbearers, really, because people say that I want to get fit and they don't really have a deeper meaning to that. They also don't have clarity over what that means to them. And I think that's kind of step one.
100%. I think there's a lack of specificity. Like people will say, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, go to the bathroom right now, take a number 1 or number 2, it doesn't matter. Come back out and you're gonna have lost weight, right? Like there's gotta be more intention and there's gotta be more specificity behind it so we can actually reach and aspire to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in regards to like fitness, you know, I think most people want to be able to do the things that they enjoy, the things that they love, without feeling pain. Like they want to be able to feel strong and secure and safe doing those things, whether it's, you know, playing basketball on the weekend with their friends or running around with their kids or taking their grandkids to soccer practice, whatever it may be. We just want to be able to live life without pain so we can be joyful and experience all of the beauty of life, right? Like you said, I mean, it's such a small percentage of us playing sports or anything else competitive at a high level.
Yeah.
So it's really just about quality of life.
Yeah. That's well said. And also worth noting from my perspective is you know, I now train guys that are sort of in their 40s, and there's a mindset as you get older, your health declines, and that is just it's not written on the wall. Do you know what I mean? It's not a necessity. It's not a route you have to take. That's a choice. For your health to decline as you get older, that's a choice that you're making, and that's kind of the message that I'm always trying to put forward, as opposed to kind of there's a common edicts out there that people just think, oh well, I've got aches and pains. Oh well, I must be getting old. And that's again a real frustration and sort of aligns to what you're saying.
It's, you know, and it's so cliche, but age is really just a number. Because I have a client and she's like 70, she's 71 now, actually from London, and she walks 3 miles every morning and trains 5 days a week, and she's incredible. Yeah. And then there's people like you said that they kind of throw in the towel already. And I feel like, again, it goes back to this idea, you know, you graduate college and then there's this external pressure to jump right into a corporate job, and people stop playing, people stop moving, people stop doing these things that we're designed to be doing, right? Whether it's dancing, walking, running, playing a sport, it doesn't matter what it is, but your body's designed to move. Mm-hmm. So when you stop doing that and you replace it with sitting on your ass all day, you know, it's no wonder why we spoke about mental health, chronic disease, all of these things that are so elevated, right? And that goes again with like pain and injuries, all of those.
Yeah, cool. So with your movement, your stand up to sitting, well, what do you define as the goal of that movement? What's kind of your flag?
I would say the biggest goal is to educate and empower people on simple strategies just to implement in their day-to-day life. Because, you know, you're about to be a father soon, right? Yeah. And your time's about to be even more precious. So I have compassion, I have empathy, I completely understand. Listen, this person is working 8 to 6 and they're going home, they're going to eat dinner with their family and spend time with them. So I don't want to encourage someone to replace that family time with an hour CrossFit or an hour yoga. That's why it's so vital and crucial and beneficial to incorporate 5 minutes of movement here and there throughout the day. Mm-hmm. I always say, you know, Einstein came up with E = MC squared. Good job, Albert. But I came up with small changes equal big changes. Okay? Equally as profound. Okay? But guys, there's something called the Pomodoro technique. And basically this was a strategy developed in the 1970s that found that, listen, if you move for 5 minutes, whether it's stretching, going on a walk outside every half hour, so 5 minutes every half hour, then you're going to maintain a lot of blood flow throughout the day, and your metabolism is going to stay consistent as well. So if you add up 5 minutes every half hour and you take that over an 8-hour workday, right? That's 80 minutes of movement. And it's not high intensity stuff, but most of us don't need that, to be honest. You know, if you're just moving, stretching, and showing your joints and tissue some love, you're going to be in such a better position to be more energetic and live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it comes back to your goal of trying to be healthier and happier, as opposed to getting fit for a certain, trying to have an external goal, extrinsic goal that doesn't really add up to your values, and you haven't really delved deeper into why you're doing something or why you want to do something around health or fitness within your own journey. And I think that getting that clarity again is just absolutely vital. And you know, the more we study the body, you know, and again, I think some people think that we know loads about the body, and the more we study it, the more you realize how little we know. The more we study it now, the more we're seeing actually, you know, the 1 hour in the gym versus 23 hours in an office. Surprise, surprise, the biggest impact is what you do in those 23 hours, not in that 1 hour you're sat in the gym. Having a good workout, whether it be a super high intensity CrossFit workout or kind of a more gentle kind of yin yoga, you know, that you've got to consider what you're doing outside those quote unquote training hours.
100%. And yeah, you hit it on the head. And another thing to piggyback off that, you know, people who are sedentary for a majority of the day, and then they're expecting to perform at a high level during whatever class they're going to, your hips, your spine is going to be locked up. So you're more likely to get hurt. You're more likely to get discouraged, right, from doing a session like that, because your body is not ready for it. It's not prepared for it. And you know, like you said, just these small things, and human beings are spending 93% of their lifetime indoors. And that might even be higher in a place like, you know, England, where it's cold for a majority of the year, right? But we need to get outside, connect with nature. I always say overdose on the free drugs. People are so quick to prescribe, you know, this pill for that and another drink for this. But listen, if you just overdose on oxygen, water, sunshine, relationships, community, you know, you're gonna have a happy, healthy life. And I hate to make it sound so easy, but I really want to break it down and encourage you guys just to take advantage of all of these things right underneath our nose.
I think, and the Blue Zone studies, which I reference a lot in the conversations I have and the podcast as well, you know, they demonstrate that without a shadow of a doubt. So they're longitudinal studies, and they look at some of the longest living people and the healthiest populations on the planet, and you know, that is what we're seeing. We're not seeing them doing loads and loads of quote unquote fitness or training. You know, they are living in small communities that are really well integrated. They depend on each other. Diet is hugely important. Being outdoors in nature and being just generally active is what provides us with a healthy life. And that's we're learning that more and more as we kind of we study it. Although, like you said, it's you know, it arcs back to the kind of you know, we spend years studying something in Western medicine that they've been practicing in Eastern medicine for about 2,000 years. Do you know what I mean? And we don't seem to break the cycle of what makes sense.
Yeah, it's a interesting cycle. But like you said, I mean, just getting back to those basics, and also just want to mention, like, if you do want to achieve some sort of unique, special, aspirational goal, that's completely okay. All the power to you. But I think we're just trying to say the baseline for most people is just to be healthy without pain when they wake up in the morning, being able to do the things that they enjoy doing, focus on those basics. But yeah, the blue zone studies are so interesting. And like you said, they're just moving throughout the day, right? They're moving, they're being active, they're eating natural, real food, nothing processed. And yeah, relationships are everything. And not online relationships, the real ones, like we're doing right now, right? We're staring into each other's eyes. I want to ask you guys, think about this. Close your eyes, think about this. When is the last time that you stared into somebody's eyes with the intention of just trying to get to know them and listen deeper? And just think about that, because it's one of these skills that has been lost. And if we can just get some of that back, I think we're going to find much more meaning.
Yeah, amen. I think, and that's actually something that the podcast has really brought to the forefront of my life, is having conversations with, and I know we talked about it, and you were finding it quite interesting as well, having conversations with people that you're genuinely interested in hearing what they've got to say. Therefore, by going through this process, you learn to listen and have quite deep conversations. And it, in a weird way, it feels like something that we should be doing very naturally, very organically, but I don't think we do. I think now it's all very transactional. You see lots of people for very short spells throughout your day, and you never really sit down. And we're constantly distracted. You know, we've got a supercomputer in our pocket that can connect us with every person on the planet. We've got, a TV full of programs that they've spent millions and millions on trying to keep us engaged, and it's really hard to break out of that and have those deep conversations where you develop the skill of listening, and on the other side the skill of storytelling, which is innate to our human nature.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the conversation we're having right now, like we were having similar conversations offline, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us we've been preconditioned in a lot of ways for our communication. We ask the most basic questions. I'm staying at this hostel in London, and it's like, hey, where are you from? Oh, what do you do? And it's these very surface level questions. And we oftentimes have these same types of conversations with our close friends or family members, and we never really dive deep, So, having more depth and actually having meaningful conversations, right? And just diving deeper, a lot of things will be discovered. And I think a lot of our problems will also be resolved because so many people just feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
So having these conversations and being there to listen with intention and not just listening so you can respond, right? There's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So having these conversations and really valuing communication is so important. And as coaches, that's what I think separates the best coaches from the mediocre ones, is that honest communication, that ability to give feedback in a constructive way and really hold people accountable in a way that works for them. Because as you know, each individual is so unique in their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So communication, especially for us as coaches, but for everyone, it's so important.
Yeah, and I think the accountability is massive as well. And you certainly feel that as a coach. You're in that process. It's something that's hard to explain up front, but it's probably what people derive the most value from, because they're actually held accountable to themselves and the path that they're on and the path that they've chosen, and actually to progress. And it's quite interesting because I can't remember where I heard it, but recently someone said that to be a really good friend to someone, you need to hold them completely accountable, and that actually means having those deep conversations and asking them challenging questions, and putting them to the coal, as it were, and make sure that they understand what's staring back at them when they're looking in the mirror. And it's tough. It's really tough, and it's something that I think, if we ask ourselves questions and interactions that we have with our friends, sometimes we just don't do that. And as coaches, we have to do that, because that's the job, and that's the tough part of the job. That sometimes in our sort of close relationships, we just don't do that. We don't, and actually, I think we're not being true friends, because we're not holding that mirror of accountability up to our friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is fear, because it's the fear of not being liked.
Yeah.
Most of us, human nature, we want to be liked, right? And as soon as we're honest, even if it's for their best interests, then we envision some controversy or conflict taking place. But it's funny you mentioned the accountability thing, because actually right before I left for England like a week ago, a couple of my friends and I did this with like 4 or 5 of my friends, we made an accountability group, and we each picked one thing that we wanted to be held accountable for by the rest of the group. So one of my friends is, he's an absolute monster. Like, you would look at him, you would think he's an Incredible Hulk, but on the inside, he was kind of feeling like shit. And he was like, yeah, guys, I just stopped doing all the basics. Like, I barely drink water. So we're like, stop right there. All right, let's drink a gallon a day. So that's what we're holding him accountable for. And just having people to check in with you and to support you, and knowing that they're there because they care about you. And I think most people receive that type of feedback in a positive way if it's given to them in a constructive way. Because they genuinely oftentimes do understand, like, this is for my self-interest. But of course there's going to be people that get offended, but you can't worry about that. You have to be real. You have to be honest. You have to be transparent. There's no other way to be.
Yeah, and you have to give a shit. You have to give a shit, and it's not easy as well. It's not the easy choice, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? You've got that disease to please, which you mentioned, wanting to be liked all the time, and then the easy choice, which is just agree and move on. And the tough choice is actually to put them to the fire and hold them accountable, and get them some results and help them, and be that team player. And that's the reference I always make. Are you being a team player? And being a team player means that you provide that feedback, because without it, the team can't move forward. You know what I mean? We can't all sit around a table, tell each other how great we are if we're losing every single week. It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, 100%. And I tell my clients too, I expect the same type of feedback from them. I ask them, very, very frequently, I'm asking for feedback. Like, what do you like about our sessions? What do you think I could improve upon? Because we're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
Just because we're coaches doesn't mean we're not learning. We're learning and growing every single day. And I think when you kind of have those conversations with people and they understand, like, okay, we're not putting this person on a pedestal just because they're our coach. Like, they want my opinion, they want my feedback, they want to hear my voice. I think that's when you start to build a lot of mutual respect and admiration and long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think I think you can easily get caught up in what people refer to as professionalism, and have a barrier in you actually doing those things. And the more and more I sort of mature in my attitude and outlook, the less I want to use that as a frame of reference, that old-fashioned professionalism approach. And like I was saying before, when the guys come on board with me, I tell them that I'm going to try and be a true friend to them, and that means holding them accountable and all the things that we just talked about. Cool. Let's move on. So we've touched on it a little bit, and it's something that you mentioned about my frustrations with the healthcare system and the way things aren't working, big pharma, all the problems that we see. What sort of pisses you off in the health and wellbeing space? What gets your goat and sort of keeps you up at night and sort of drives you forward as well, fuels you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a little bit of an interesting perspective because my dad's been a neurologist for 40 years now. He's actually retiring at the end of this year. And, you know, brain health is one of those things that people thought was all genetic. They didn't factor any epigenetics, or they almost took out the control. They made the individual powerless. And I think healthcare, especially in the States, is sending the message to every single person that you are broken. You know, in their advertising, in their marketing, and even physicians, the way they're trained to diagnose patients now, it's like you have a certain quota. You have to see this number of patients each and every day to reach this pay grade or whatever the structure is. But it's the constant reminder and messaging to each person and individual that you are broken. You need to take this pill to get rid of prediabetes or obesity or high blood pressure, whatever it is. And they're not empowering them. There's no empowerment going on. Like, hey, listen, if you substituted these foods for those foods and, you know, went on a 45-minute walk every day, I think over a course of 3 or so months, you might see a lot of these issues dissolve. Mm-hmm. So it's just bothersome that it's all about money. And, you know, I know it's cliche, but when it comes down to it, you know, what's upsetting is everyone's losing. Doctors, you know, I know so many doctors who are just absolutely burnt out. They're burnt out. They're not even enjoying this job that's supposed to be so fulfilling and rewarding because the average, in the US at least, the average interaction, the average time with a patient, each appointment is 8 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, I think it must be similar here.
And it's really what can you accomplish in 8 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, other than write up a quick prescription. Mm-hmm. And it's just really upsetting to see it go that way in such an extreme way, and for people to be so reliant from a young age. Kids are coming in at 8 or 9 years old saying, hey, you know, their parents coming in, hey, he's anxious, he can't stop moving around, we need to give him Adderall. Mm-hmm. Like, really? You're giving this 8 or 9 year old like a very potent drug, and now he's going to be dependent on it for the rest of his life. And how is that going to affect his growth? How's that going to affect his brain, his hormones, all of these things? So it's a very sensitive subject. You know, we could talk for hours on end about this. And then what I guess gives me hope, or what gets me moving, gets the needle moving for me, is I do see like functional medicine becoming more prominent, and people seem to be a little more awoke. Mm-hmm. And understanding that they do hold control. But I think it's a lot of people our parents' age, like the baby boomers who are in their, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s now, who grew up with this very, very targeted messaging, basically, whether it was nutrition or health-wise, but basically saying like, okay, if my dad had a heart attack, I'm going to have a heart attack. Or if my grandpa had Alzheimer's, I'm going to get Alzheimer's. And it takes away the accountability, right? Like we were talking about accountability, and now it's just like an excuse. Like, oh, I'm destined for this.
Yeah. So
that's a long answer.
That's no. I think that's a great answer. And yeah, it's just a common idea that people have, and you know, the functional medicine stuff is fantastic, and it reminds me of a quote that I just remembered back from Deepak Chopra, and he says believe the diagnosis, don't believe the prognosis. So you feel like you are empowered and make the change, I guess, is the message behind that. But it's a really kind of snappy kind of quote to people, and you know what amazing work he's doing in the functional medicine space as well, and it's great to see. I think we're a little way away from seeing this tide change in terms of the obesity moving in the wrong direction, diabetes, all those chronic conditions which are still moving away from us in terms of getting them on the right side of healthy.
Yeah. And listen, that's why I think the workplace is such a profound area of impact, because where are these people spending the majority of their lives, right? At work.
Yeah.
And not only are they sitting all day, but they are extremely stressed and they don't really have any tools to relieve stress, breathing techniques, different stuff like that. And most of them are eating absolute garbage for lunch throughout the day. They're not hydrating properly. So it's an influx of things, and I think one leads to the other. They're probably sleep deprived too. Maybe their relationship with their loved one isn't good because they're coming home every day stressed and frustrated and angry. So all of a sudden, this workplace situation has kind of transcended the entire landscape of one's health and longevity.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, for me personally, I think the workplace is the biggest opportunity to make a long-term change for the better.
Interesting. That is interesting. And I know you're doing some work in that, specifically focusing on that over in Miami and bits and pieces there.
Yeah, we're working with a couple smaller offices, but definitely looking to grow and continue just impacting these people and going in, seeing what value we can offer. And a lot of times, a lot of what I've noticed with these smaller offices where we're able to build more personal relationships with the team is that these people oftentimes don't have anyone in their life to support them or to hold them accountable or to join them, maybe going to the gym or going on a walk.
Yeah.
So us being there and having that presence is so big for them, because it's the first time in 50, 60 years for some of them that they've had someone check in like, hey, did you drink that 16 ounces of water this morning? Hey, did you go for that 10-minute walk you said you were going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the power it has.
Yeah.
Right. And it really comes down to the leadership, I think, of the companies and businesses. If they're aligned with it, if they truly value and believe and love that their team, this is something they're going to invest in.
Yeah.
But if their sole purpose is to lower healthcare costs, then it's not going to be a good fit because, like you said, obesity, diabetes, these things don't happen overnight, right? It's 10, 15 years of sustained poor habits, and it's not going to go away in overnight either. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time to notice, results. And I think that's why leadership is really the driving force. HR, sure, but it really comes down to the C-level execs.
Yeah.
Is this something they want to implement? Is this something that they're going to participate in?
And those guys are, the guys that I coach as well. And it's, sometimes it's difficult conversation because in my experience, because they understand their role as a manager within a corporation or within a small organization or even a boss, but to actually then permeate their leadership into the health of their staff is, for some of these guys, quite a big leap, and one that needs to be cultivated and developed over time as well. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's kind of some of the pushback I've had.
Yeah, listen, I think it comes back to culture, right? If you look at the best companies that have been around for 100+ years, or the ones that are up and coming that are the biggest players now, it's all about offering their team a special experience because it's so competitive out there. So not only if you want to bring in the best talent, but if you want to retain the best talent, you better be doing something above and beyond just paying them a paycheck and giving them a happy hour every month.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do is like, oh, we're going to give them a happy hour and get people together that way. But this is something that people want, right? And if leadership's willing to invest, it's one of those things where it's like you're putting in the initial kind of investment at the front part of it, and you might not get the results later. And so many of us love that instant gratification. But you have to know on the inside that this is not only the right thing to do, but it's the best thing to do for your bottom line down the road.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think people value, they appreciate being cared for and acknowledged and nurtured more so than even sometimes their salary.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, and I think we're seeing that with the younger generations coming into the workforce. Actually, they're not valuing money as the number one factor in their employment, and that is, I think, that's a cultural change from the 80s and the 90s when it was, sort of Epicurean. Everyone was about the money, and it was kind of a bit of a flash culture. I think things have changed in that space, and there have been some recent studies to prove that as well. But to flip it all around, it's interesting because, a leader within the military would demand that their body of people turn up in a decent shape to do the role that the environment demands of them. So they demand a healthy workforce, they demand a fit health force, and they demand the best of the people that are under them, and they give them that opportunity to actually be the best that they can. So it's interesting from that dynamic, and I think some of the bigger corporations, they do try and model some of their leadership styles on what goes on within the military as well. So it's interesting that piece of the puzzle doesn't quite line up.
Yeah, listen, you look at, when I was back home in California a few months ago, I visited like Google's headquarters, and just obviously Google's as a superhero, like they're an absolute beast, but the way that they have, the dining halls, the quality of food that, all their employees have access to, each building has a state-of-the-art gym and outdoor stuff for them to do, basketball courts. Like, I'm not saying every business, most businesses aren't in position to do that, but even things like walking clubs or running clubs, or just, bringing wellness practitioners in on a consistent basis. And right now in the States, the most common thing you'll see is like a wellness week, where 1 week out of the 52, you have a hospital sponsor this. Of course, it's all money generated too, right? And they'll take your blood glucose, and they'll take your blood pressure, and they'll tell you, okay, you should probably see a doctor now because these numbers are very elevated. But another thing I want to touch on too, in regards to the workplace, real quick, and then we'll switch it up, is there's something called presenteeism. And when you talk to leadership, one of the big initiatives that they want to reverse is absenteeism, right? Like missed days of work, which makes sense. But I was diving a little deeper and just reading into it, and presenteeism is actually a bigger issue. And the funny thing is, there's really no way to measure it, because presenteeism is when someone's physically at the job, they're at the office, but they're not really there. They're like completely zoned out.
Yeah.
They're cognitively not firing on all cylinders, probably because they're eating like shit. They're not moving their body. And so many people are suffering with brain fog. Like so many. And, I was telling you, that's why I'm such a big fan of, like the mushroom products that I have my clients on, where it's like 8 organic mushrooms, because these are tools that are ingredients that are so good for memory, cognitive function. And, I think brain health needs to be put at the highest priority. And you're seeing type 3 diabetes with Alzheimer's and dementia just sweeping over the elderly, and it's so sad. And as my parents get older, I'm like so motivated to keep their health at a high level.
Yeah. It's a massive space, isn't it? And what is good about it from our perspective is companies are starting to look at this stuff, and it is becoming, more than just a kind of like a very obscure niche now. This corporate well-being, corporate health is becoming more and more prevalent, and we're seeing that as well, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, all we can do is, continue spreading our message.
Yep.
And being intentional and really enrolling people in our vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people are going to align with us and some won't.
Yeah.
You're never going to please everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's that. Yeah, and in a nutshell, the power of the internet and doing things like your own podcast allows you to do that, and pull the people that understand your message to you. And that's the magic of what's going on at the moment, and the speed of development in that space is phenomenal.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
We all have a voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's 2019, and I think that's what's so cool is we all have a voice. We all have the ability to be heard. So there's really no excuse.
No, there really isn't. And in my eyes, just posting your holiday pictures is not really going to shift the needle or impact anyone's life. So why not use this incredible tool that we've now all got at our fingertips for something that's meaningful to you? It could be anything, but it sure as hell ain't posting pictures about the best days of your life. And expecting to believe everyone to believe that you're having a really lovely life, when actually the pictures you don't post, things aren't that great.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to go. I know we have to wrap up soon, but it's pretty late here, guys. By the way,
yeah,
it's like midnight, and you and I both have like super early days. I fly to Madrid. Probably leave here at like 4:35 a.m.
Yeah.
And you have a 6:30 a.m. client. But no, what you're talking about, two things I wanted to touch on real quick. One, in regards to getting your message out there, and whether it be social media, whatever the platform is, if you're a coach out there, or if you have a positive message to display, to amplify, I feel like there's an obligation to do so. And I have this conversation with so many people in the health industry, and I'm like, you have so much knowledge, you have so much good energy, but you're not sharing it. And they all have the same excuse, like, oh, I don't like social media, it takes too much time, I don't know what to post. It's like, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Just an hour, 2 hours a week to it. And you need to spread that message, because it's 2019, and I know I prioritize my in-person impact, number one, of course, but like, we have the ability to reach so many people. Like, this conversation wouldn't be happening without social media, and we need to harness the power of it rather than make it a villain. And what you were saying after that is, I think social media has made this whole comparing, Teddy Roosevelt says it best when he says comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And people are constantly in the game of, stacking their chips against other people's and comparing their grind to other people's highlight reel.
Mm.
Because everyone's just posting the highlights of their life. Now, I'm probably guilty of the same. I try and also kind of be more authentic and like write meaningful things and provide value. But it's really, I just think, important for a mental health standpoint to just understand that you might be feeling jealous or resentment towards someone for something they post, because you're like, oh, their life's so great and they have a perfect marriage, perfect life. And it's never the case, everyone has their shit, and most people just aren't willing to share that part.
Yeah. It's exactly right. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole, isn't it? The whole social media aspect of the internet. But I want to keep things moving forward. And I want to hear from you. So you've mentioned a few different things to do. So kind of like what does a day look like for you in terms of how you prioritize health, and what are some of the things that you do think about that keep you kind of on point on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I'll take you through my like a typical day. Obviously, this isn't every day, but this is kind of a Monday through Friday. Typical scope is I'll usually have 3 to 4 clients in the morning from 6 to 10 a.m., 6 to 11 a.m., maybe with an hour in between off. So I'll usually wake up at 4:45 or 5, and I always, at a minimum, try to give myself 30 minutes in the morning to journal. So, writing one thing that I'm feeling grateful for in the moment, one affirmation, telling myself, lately my affirmation has been just writing down and saying out loud, I am a joyful, honest, inspirational leader. And just getting my head and my mind and my belief system aligned. Because I feel like so many people wake up and they're already in the rabbit hole of checking their phones, attending to other people's needs. So I think one of the most important things, starting from the previous night actually, is putting your phone on airplane mode and leaving it on airplane mode for the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day to really give yourself that time to breathe, to move your body. My acronym is CLIMB: cold exposure, lubricate your organs, at least 16 ounces of water, intention, set an intention for the day, and move your body, and B for breathe. You don't have to do all of them. Find which 2 or 3 have the most profound effects on you. But having that first part of your day where you're able to build momentum for the rest of the day is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you know, like we're at the beck and call of other people, whether it's our client, whether it's our spouse, whoever it is. There's so much chaos that takes place throughout the day that isn't necessarily under our control, but you have full control and autonomy over those first 30 to 60 minutes. So if you have to wake up a little earlier, then that's what you have to do. And then kind of mid-afternoon, eat a healthy lunch. Usually have my first meal at like 11 or 12. It's either, a big salad with like salmon or 3 or 4 eggs and avocado, and then probably 1 or 2 more clients in the evening time. And I usually sandwich my workout in, afternoon or late evening. But yeah, I'm really trying to just be more intentional about doing the things I love to do, like taking on projects that I actually am passionate about. Because in the past I was taking on things kind of because, I loved what you said. What was the need to please? No, I wrote it down.
Disease to please.
Disease to please. Yeah. I love that. And I was definitely guilty of that. So filling my day with like meaning, my clients, my personal needs, and spending time with people I care about and that push me and make me better. So that's kind of an average day for me. And then obviously some days are more chaotic than others, but definitely taking that self-inventory on myself each morning, checking in with myself, getting my mind right, getting my heart aligned.
Yeah, it's important stuff. Awesome. And I think it aligns to I can't remember who said it now, someone on Rich Roll's podcast, but it's, we sometimes sort of idolize possessions or a state we want to get to, something we might want to own, or a feeling we put off so far in the distance it doesn't really mean much. But to truly have a kind of successful, happy life, I think you need to sit down and map out what a good day looks like for you. And if you haven't been through that exercise, then how do you ever expect to get what you want? And actually, working in a job for 30, 40 years that you're not that excited about, you're not that passionate about, and getting the result, quote unquote, the result is a bit of a hollow victory, as opposed to spending the time doing the deep work, sitting down and mapping out what a perfect day would look like for you, one where you're at peace and you found happiness on a regular basis, you connect with the people you care about and you love, what that looked like and how you can implement that plan versus the big house or the retirement or X, Y, or Z that's 20, 30 years off in the future. You're going to set yourself up for a fall taking that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. I think it's big everywhere, but yeah, people are always chasing these material things, trying to impress people that they don't even know, that they don't even like. And oftentimes those are the people that are really searching for meaning the most. So yeah, that's why I think it's like you said, is having those conversations with yourself. We're so scared of silence. Like, I feel like today people are freaked out of silence and spending time alone. You need that time. You need to get comfortable with yourself. You need to be able to look in the mirror, stare at yourself, and be happy about the person that you're becoming.
Yeah.
And there needs to be that commitment towards growth.
Yeah.
People get too complacent, too comfortable, and when that happens, you're just staying put.
Mm-hmm.
And once you commit to growth, just do something new each day, or get out of your typical day-to-day routine and have that mindset of consistent improvement in some aspect of life. It doesn't have to be big. Remember, small changes equal big changes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just being willing and open to evolve and grow is, I think, a huge step to take.
Yeah, and everything that we talk, all the positive aspects of the stuff that we're talking about, it takes time to be healthy, to move your health in a right direction, to succeed in being that stuff, being the person that you want to be. But actually, failing at that stuff also takes time. Eating too much sugar, completely screwing up your insulin pumps, and your cellular metabolism takes time. So whichever direction you choose, and I truly believe it is a choice, it takes time to move down one path or down the other. So, it's around those decisions and how you map it out and the choices you make. So, no choice is a choice.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think one place where people stumble that I would love to offer some advice and encouragement is, rather than trying to take on 4 or 5 new habits at once, focus on one thing and be great at that one thing and build consistency at that one thing. Because I see too many people trying to wake up at 5 a.m., go vegan, start CrossFit, do yoga, and like become an entrepreneur all in the same month. It's like, no, that's not going to be an effective way. So pick something. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes before you're typically used to, and you build consistency. See what that extra 30 minutes does to open up space and time for these other vital parts of your day. So don't overwhelm yourself, because that's going to be discouraging if you try something and then you're not successful at it, you're not effective at it. So really pick one thing, whether it's, like you said, removing sugar or removing meat, whatever it is, and master that thing and then implement something else.
Wicked. I've got one final question for you, Jeremy, before we wrap this up. I mean, we could just keep chatting all night. Miss your flight, and I miss my work tomorrow as well. But I'm gonna attempt to wrap it up with my final question that I ask all my podcast guests, and that is, what does health mean to you?
Health to me means, and I think I touched on this earlier, but health to me just means being able to do all of the things I love to do at a high level without feeling any sort of pain. And for me personally, sorry to drag on the question, but for me personally, I'm an active person. I like playing sports. I like exploring nature, hikes, whatever it may be. So I know if those are the activities I want to be doing consistently at a high level, then I might need to put in that extra work with my joint mobility, or, getting a little extra sleep so I'm feeling well rested and energized. So like you said, having those conversations with yourself, understanding what your wants and needs are, and then putting yourself in position to match those aspirations with the actions necessary. So for me, to summarize, health means being able to do all of the things that I love at a high level without feeling pain.
Awesome, good answer. Where can we find you and all the bits that you're up to? What's the best way to connect with you, Jeremy?
So the best place to connect with me would definitely be, I would love to have Nick on my podcast too. The Stand Up to Sitting podcast, you can find it on, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Instagram is Coach Jeremy, Jeremy 305. Always posting different movement, inspiring videos, whatever you need. I try to provide it there. And then on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, those would probably be the best 3 places to consume content, to connect with me. I'm always responding to every message, so please feel free to reach out, and I'm always happy to dive deeper.
Jeremy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, brother.
All right, Nate.
So there we have it. That's a wrap for episode 1 of series 2, the deep dive. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and got a lot of value out of that. Please do follow Jeremy and pay these podcasts forwards in kind of engagement. That's the currency that we love, and we want to hear what's going on with you guys and what you found relevant, pertinent, and usable in your life. So please do engage with myself and Jeremy. I'm at The Knock, and that's THENOQ on social, Facebook, Instagram. Probably the best place to get hold of me. Send me a message, let me know what you thought, and also if you are enjoying the content that we are creating here at the Elemental Health Podcast, then please share it with someone and get someone else moving in the right direction towards amazing, awesome health. Until next time, take care.